A stunning worldwide technology outage knocking out computer systems at banks, airlines, and hospitals. This all happened overnight, but many of those systems are still recovering tonight. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to West Coast Wrap. I'm Alex Savage. This outage stems from a faulty update from CrowdStrike, which provides cybersecurity software to many companies, most notably Microsoft. Last night, CrowdStrike tried to update one of its tools called Falcon, but there was a defect in that update. Companies that rely on Microsoft's Windows operating system went offline, with many users receiving what's described as the blue screen of death, indicating a system crash. Now, Microsoft is out with a statement tonight, writing, quote, "We're aware of an issue affecting Windows devices due to an update from a third-party software platform. We anticipate a resolution is forthcoming." The CEO of CrowdStrike, based in Austin, Texas, says the issue has been identified and a fix has been deployed.
It wasn't a cyber attack. It was related to this content update. And as you might imagine, we've been on, with our customers all night and working with them. Many of the customers are rebooting the system. It's a very complex world, and there's a lot of interactions. And always staying ahead of the adversary is certainly, a tall task.
George Kurtz also says, quote, "We're deeply sorry for the impact that we've caused to customers, to travelers, to anyone affected by this, including our companies." U.S. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg addressed the outage earlier today while visiting Los Angeles. He says the heavy reliance on technology leaves the country vulnerable to another similar outage.
Part of the consequence of living in an extremely digitized society is that a software issue can have major implications. These new technologies have brought major benefits in terms of efficiency and safety, but they also come with new vulnerabilities.
And this outage forced the FAA to ground thousands of flights today. Long lines formed at airports across the country as frustrated passengers tried to reach their destinations. One of those airports was Portland International. Fox 12's Deborah Gill talked with passengers there who were growing restless today with the long delays and cancellations.
Take a look at the lines. Major airlines, including American, Delta, and United, all canceled flights starting late Thursday night. Many people were stuck waiting here into this morning or getting hotel rooms or going back home. Dozens of flights into and out of PDX were canceled or delayed. The airlines began to resume flights this morning, but it took hours to work through the backlog and try to get everyone accommodated. Staff with Southwest, Alaska, and Hawaiian Air tell me they use different computer systems and were able to keep flying. Some airlines then rebooked their passengers with those that were still able to fly. We spoke with a lot of people who really didn't know what was happening or where to turn for answers, as airline apps were either down or not accurate.
Well, we've been here for an hour and a half. We've moved about 50 feet in line, and it's automatically rebooking me for a 3-leg journey with 15 hours of layovers in the next 24 hours, so we'll see.
It was about 11:50 when they told us that it was delayed till 1:30, and then at 1:30 they didn't say anything, and then people said, "Is it canceled?" And then they finally came out about 2:15 or so, 2:30, and said, "It's canceled. Go get your bags. They're down there."
We've got a rescheduled flight already for this afternoon, so we're just trying to decide if we're going to take that or just get a rental car and drive home.
It feels like it's like this every time I go to an airport anymore, honestly. It's a disaster every time.
Some travelers told us trying to get a hold of their airline put them on hold for 9 hours. Others told us getting a hotel room near the airport to wait it out or get some rest became difficult. Those businesses were affected as well by the outage, and they ran out of rooms as travelers sought a place to stay. PDX added staff to help people navigate the long lines. They encourage everyone flying to contact your airline to check the status of the flight before you head here to the airport. But as some people we talked to, that wasn't helping them either. At PDX, Deborah Gill, Fox 12 Oregon.
Here's a live look tonight at San Francisco International Airport. Some passengers at SFO say they tried to leave as the crisis was unfolding today, and now they say airlines can't find their luggage.
We got to go through lines and computers and wait for luggage to come up to us. Now we're going to miss our second flight. My dream vacation is gone. I was supposed to get on a cruise. We were headed to Orlando. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous.
Consumer advocates say not all airlines were affected, so this amounts to an IT issue and is ultimately the responsibility of the airlines. Advocates say that means if the flight was canceled, passengers are entitled to a refund. And the global computer chaos also interrupted shipping today. Hundreds of trucks were parked at the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach, waiting to deliver or pick up goods. Tonight, Fox 11's Gigi Graciette talks with drivers who were caught in the hours-long backup.
Today, the lines at the port of Long Beach are a little bit longer than usual. And while most of the truck drivers we spoke to hadn't heard about the massive computer outage and those infamous blue screens of death seen around the world, they are now caught up in the delays the outage caused. After what should have been a simple security software update ended up taking clients offline. The domino effect in full effect, with the transportation industry hit hard. At the port of Los Angeles and San Pedro, Skyfox Live over hundreds of trucks just stopped there too. And stopped is exactly what a truck driver doesn't want to be.
Sometimes I get in at 7, I came out like at 11, 12.
So this could really set you back.
Oh yeah, sometimes we wait for like 5 hours inside.
And if you're not driving, you're not making money, right?
You're right. We have to work. Yeah, the tire has to be rolling.
According to port sources in Long Beach, some completely automated terminals like TrayPack were completely down at one point, while other terminals who use computers but are not automated were able to pick up operations with some old-fashioned paperwork. As one port official told me, today's outage is a good reminder that good old-fashioned human labor isn't a bad thing. In Long Beach, I'm Gigi Graciette.
And the outage also affected the criminal justice system. LA County Superior Court is experiencing connectivity issues affecting its operations. The court decided to push back hearings for everyone who is scheduled to appear remotely today. They will be notified about new court dates in the future. And systems are back up and running at the Phoenix Police 911 call center. The department is still working to catch up on non-emergency calls that were made during the outage and is asking for people to have patience as it works through all of those calls. Montana Senator Jon Tester is now the latest Democrat to call on President Biden to end his bid for re-election. Tester is among 4 Democratic senators to call for Biden to leave the race. He is locked in a tight race for re-election right now. Nearly 24 Democrats in the House have made the same request. The president continues to isolate tonight at his home in Delaware as he recovers from COVID. Campaign officials say Biden remains committed to staying in this race. Today is the last day to request an early ballot for the upcoming primary elections in Arizona. Early voting is underway right now, with Election Day coming up on Tuesday, July 30th. Officials recommend voters put their ballots in the mail by this upcoming Tuesday. The Maricopa County Recorder's Office expects more than 850,000 ballots to be cast. About a third of them have already been received. One city in Washington is taking advantage of a recent Supreme Court decision allowing cities to penalize people for sleeping or camping on sidewalks. The Lakewood City Council voted on their own ordinance this week, making it an arrestable defense. Lakewood is roughly 35 miles south of Seattle. The new ordinance, which passed by a 3-2 vote, would allow police to issue trespass notices to those sleeping or camping on city property.
What we want is for people to accept the help that is out there, for people to make good decisions, to get healthy, to get over addictions or mental health issues, and to get the help they need to get into housing.
Those who are unhoused will have a grace period before they're arrested. They'll be educated about the ordinance, offered services, a bus ride, along with food and shelter. And authorities say if they ignore that, the next time would be a formal trespassing report. An arrest would happen after a third offense. The ordinance takes effect on August 14th. In Southern California, a teenage girl fought off a would-be kidnapper. This all happened Wednesday in South Los Angeles. Police say a man pulled up to an intersection, got out of his car, and then tried to drag the 15-year-old girl into his car at gunpoint. But the victim fought back, hitting the assailant with her phone before running off. It's unclear tonight whether the victim knew the suspect in this case. So far, no arrests have been made. East of Los Angeles, one woman was killed and several others were hurt in a sword attack that happened in the city of San Dimas. The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department says one victim was found dead in a home yesterday afternoon. The sword could be seen there on the street. Another person was taken to a hospital and a third person was treated there at the scene. Deputies have not said so far what they believe prompted this attack, and no arrests have been made in the case. Coming up tonight on West Coast Wrap, wildfires are an ever-growing threat here in the West. Coming up, we'll take a look at the new technology the state of Colorado is using to try to get ahead of the flames. Plus,
like nails on a chalkboard. Like it's just a yucky sound that they will likely want to avoid.
the U.S. Coast Guard is helping conservation groups protect killer whales off the coast of Washington. The tactic the groups are now using that's been used in the past to hunt these creatures.
And in weather, here's our live camera looking out toward Alcatraz in the San Francisco Bay Area. We will have the weekend forecast for the West Coast coming up after the break.
Now to a massive fire at a church in Dallas. Flames can be seen pouring from the historic First Baptist Church sanctuary that was built in the 1800s. This is now a 4-alarm fire with additional crews being called in from across the city. Authorities say the roof of the church has partially collapsed. The church's senior pastor says this historic building is full of memories.
This historic sanctuary was the site of many personal events, including my own. I was baptized there when I was 6. I was ordained for the ministry when I was 21. It holds a lot of memories.
Firefighters were initially called to the church at around 4 o'clock this afternoon. At that time, crews put out the flames, but the fire rekindled at around 6:30. That's when the sanctuary's roof partially collapsed. So far, no injuries have been reported here. The cause of the fire is unclear tonight. Crews in Colorado are using new technology to fight wildfires in the state. They're using the Multi-Mission Aircraft Program, or MMA. This allows them to use cameras that have special infrared technology. Crew members can see through smoke at long-range distances to help map out and detect fires in real time.
Picks up heats that are, no bigger than a dinner plate. We can see those from 10,000 feet, no problem. And so we're able to take images, get location data on those starts, and relay that information to either firefighters or the appropriate dispatch center so that they can then allocate resources.
Firefighters say this technology is more efficient than trying to fight fires on the ground because crews are limited in what they can see if they're not up in the air. Right now, this technology is only being used in certain parts of the state, but firefighters say the demand for the system is skyrocketing right now. The nation's largest utility provider is warning tonight about the possibility of planned power shutoffs for some parts of the Bay Area this weekend. This is to help prevent wildfires with dry conditions and high winds in the forecast. PG&E says the warning affects customers in both Alameda and Contra Costa counties on Saturday and Sunday. The utility is warning that those shutoffs are likely to happen. For more on what we can expect in terms of the forecast and the concerns about fire weather this weekend, let's turn to KTVU meteorologist Mark Tamayo. Hey, Mark.
Hi there, Alex. Yeah, still talking about some heat, and of course, a change in the wind flow could lead to an increase in the fire danger. Showing you some hot temperatures once again, as you can see out across parts of the west. Phoenix, you can see way up above 100 degrees once again. It's been the constant over the past few weeks. Palm Springs, 117. Sacramento, 106. And up in Portland, 89 degrees. This was the scene in Seattle today, a nice 84 degrees, so still warm up there. Tomorrow's going to be warm as well in San Francisco. This was the camera looking out toward the Golden Gate Bridge here, and still a little bit of some haze out there, but the fog that we had this morning cleared on out. Downtown San Francisco in the mid-70s. Some fog, though, in Santa Monica this afternoon, and Los Angeles, still a toasty high of 90 degrees. So most of the fog is focused down in Southern California. Here is the satellite and the radar. The most active weathers you can see moving into portions of Nevada, out toward Utah and Colorado, even portions of New Mexico. But up and down the coast here from Seattle down toward Los Angeles, we just have some warm to hot temperatures, especially just a few miles inland. Current numbers right now, it's 108 degrees in Las Vegas. Looks like Los Angeles has cooled off to 66. San Francisco 69, and Portland checking in 90 degrees. Here's the plan for your Saturday forecast. More sunshine up in Seattle, clearing skies for the San Francisco Bay Area. That's 70 will be for San Francisco, but the warmest locations inland of the Bay Area could be approaching the mid-90s, and then still warm to hot out toward Phoenix, over 100 degrees, and Los Angeles will be back up into the 80s. So here's kind of the breakdown with a few more cities across parts of the West, with Olympia at 91 degrees, Concord in the Bay Area 90 degrees, Tucson 106, and Palmdale in Southern California 106 degrees. Here is the plan. So tomorrow will be the warmest day of the weekend up in Seattle. We begin to trim back on those temperatures. Los Angeles will be in the 80s, but as you can see, the extremes here with the temperatures. Still the hot readings in Phoenix, 110 to 114 degrees, but cooling off, as you can see, by Monday up in Seattle, down into the mid-70s. So we're not talking about a major cool down. In fact, the heat continues to be a big part of the forecast over the next several days. Alex.
All right, Mark, thank you for that. There are only a few dozen orcas living in the Salish Sea. That's the body of water between Seattle and Vancouver. Most of those whales were either hunted or killed by pollution. As Fox 13's Lauren Donovan shows us, conservationists are now testing out a technique once employed by hunters as a means of now protecting these beloved apex predators.
Folks always kept saying pristine waters, and I never really knew what that meant.
It took arriving at Station Bellingham for North Carolina Rays Terrell Sisk to really get it.
And then I started to learn about the resident orcas. Everybody had to start with the movie Free Willy.
You saved my life.
You know, we had to Free Willy and protect them, and I would be not transparent if I said I've never seen Free Willy, because I absolutely did, and I probably watched it 60 different times.
The Coast Guard lieutenant's childhood dream became reality during a training exercise off Lummi Island.
As we were sitting there, you started to hear these big blows of air. So that was kind of like the first instance of, well, this is kind of real, and I have 20 orcas in front of me.
So we've already had a couple oil spills over the summer.
Conservationist group Orca Conservancy warns.
It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. A large-size oil spill could decimate the southern resident population. They're already very vulnerable, and there's 73 of them left.
Our waters are getting crowded. Over the next 7 years, shipping traffic in the Strait of Juan de Fuca is expected to increase 7-fold.
I don't want to be doom and gloom or worst case scenario, but the tankers that go through these waters, the bigger ships that go through the waters, what happens if one of them have a bad day? If we do have a pollution spill, we will be first on scene.
But as Sisk points out, right now they're ill-equipped. Like we saw this past summer with the Aleutian Isle sinking in the San Juans.
Most of the time when we show up on scene,
they can create a perimeter, call in for reinforcements, but they don't speak Orca. Right now, there's nothing they can do to prevent pods from swimming into these polluted areas. But as every Free Willy fan knows, one person can make a difference.
Out of the blue, Lieutenant Sisk emailed Orca Conservancy and said, hey, we want to get into orca conservation. How can we help?
Tamara Kelly with Orca Conservancy considered the options. The Coast Guard can haze whales from helicopters, even throw underwater firecrackers.
But the optics of throwing bombs towards endangered animals, not good. Plus, it can actually pose risk, as where the Comey pipes don't really risk harming them. It's more of a nuisance disturbance, like nails on a chalkboard.
A tactic once used to hunt dolphins and orcas is now being employed by the U.S. Coast Guard to protect our southern resident killer whales. And it sounds like this.
Like, it's just a yucky sound that they will likely want to avoid.
See, to us, what sounds like a harsh chime or the ring of a bell is a major disruption to these acoustic animals who rely on echolocation.
The pipes were a little odd to me.
Sisk admits at first he wasn't so sure about this pots and pans type solution.
Give it a good one, yeah.
But as you can see, he's since changed his tune. After weeks of training, the Coast Guard has mounted a pipe to one of their response boats, and they hope to deploy more with it.
It's quite painless, putting a pipe on here and connecting it to the boat and hitting it with a hammer. And the Admiral being here kind of just shows the Coast Guard support. This is kind of a win-win all around. It kind of came together.
And I'm hoping that this we can expand to the Seattle base and the Port Angeles base so we can have the entire Salish Sea in Washington state covered.
On the water in Bellingham, Lauren Donovan, Fox 13 News.
Coming up tonight on West Coast Wrap, psychedelics in the classroom, how a West Coast school wants to get a better understanding of these controversial drugs. And the revered Sundance Film Festival could be on the move. Find out which cities are being considered to host the event in the near future. The Oakland A's are out with next year's schedule as the team is shifting its home games to the Sacramento area. Their first game there will be March 31st, 2025 against the Chicago Cubs. And the A's released this new video on social media to announce next season's schedule. The team will play at Sutter Health Park in West Sacramento ahead of the A's planned move to Las Vegas by 2028. The team announced it was leaving the Bay Area after more than 50 years last year. UCLA is hoping to build a plant-filled rooftop garden designed specifically for psychedelic-assisted therapy sessions. Psychedelic-assisted therapy has shown promise in treating a wide range of mental health disorders, including depression and post-traumatic stress disorder. UCLA is a leader in this research, studying psychedelics, including work with MDMA and the active compound found in magic mushrooms. Researchers want to study how plants and animals react to these drugs in the living laboratory in the hopes that it might affect traditional and psychedelic therapy sessions. The university said it is still raising funds for that project. Thousands of gamers are in Las Vegas this weekend for what's known as the World Series of Fighting Game Tournaments. The high-stakes Evolution Championship Series, also known as EVO, is celebrating over 20 years since the tournament began. More than 10,000 people have registered to compete. A 9-time champion says the tournament offers everyday gamers the chance to try to claim the title.
Series of poker, but for fighting games, just because it's an open bracket, open tournament. Anyone around the world can come to this tournament and participate and try to claim if you are the best in the world.
8 different games will make up the event, with Street Fighter VI, Mortal Kombat, MK1, and Tekken 8 taking the spotlight. Fans can also visit the Fighting Game Museum and the Arcade Stick Museum, or they can take part in a Bring Your Own Controller competition. Looks like a lot of fun there in Vegas. The Sundance Film Festival could be rolling out the red carpet in a new city next year. The festival has spent the last 40 years in Utah. Today, organizers released a list of 6 cities that could potentially host the event in the future. That includes Boulder, Colorado, Cincinnati, Ohio, Louisville, Kentucky, Atlanta, Georgia, Santa Fe, New Mexico, and the current host city, Park City, Utah. The decision on whether to move the film festival is expected to be made early next year, and that new contract would begin in 2026. Finally, tonight, the Orange County Fair is now open in Southern California. The theme this year is Always a Good Time, and the fair is featuring 3 new rides, including a new Bavarian-themed roller coaster. There's also an amphitheater with concerts from 39 performers, some of which will continue even after the fair ends on August 18th. Should be a lot of fun there in Orange County. That does it for West Coast Wrap tonight. We appreciate you watching. As always, a reminder before we go, you can stay up to date on all the stories we're covering at westcoastwrap.com. Have a great night.